Birthday. How I hate celebrating it. What I hate most about this day is accepting gifts, unexpected surprises, sealed boxes and gift wrap with unknown contents. This is a story about my birthday and the gift that was my last. Today was my 27th birthday. I don't like loud holiday celebrations, and so I planned to spend this evening only with my wife, Rachel. We stood in the kitchen and made dinner. She was telling amazing tales of what had happened to her at work today. Her jack of a boss, Sean, was trying to drive a wedge in here. At first I didn't like it, but then my wife and I started to enjoy it. Rachel didn't have any feelings for him, and something I thought his excessive attention infuriated her. Our conversation was interrupted by a sudden knock on the door. Behind the transparent sliding door of the courtyard stood Sean. We thought it was funny that her boss decided to check on us the minute we talked about him. Sean visited us from time to time. Of course, the main reason for his visits was always my wife, whom he was not shy about showering with flowers and gifts. Today, however, he came to me. I opened the door and sarcastically greeted Sean. He walked shyly into the house. In his hands was a box wrapped in gift wrap. Without the slightest doubt, I was sure that it was addressed to Rachel, but Sean suddenly handed the box to me. He congratulated me on my birthday and asked me to unpack the gift. From the unexpectedness from his action, I fell into a stupor, uttering only a silent thank you. It's hard to describe how I felt about the box. It was too light. So much so that if it had been empty, its weight would still have been heavier. It was as if I had air in my hands to twist in different directions. I sat down on the couch, looked at Sean standing beside me, and proceeded to unpack my present. Taking the packaging off the box, I opened it. Inside was empty. Although, no, emptiness has a frame, which was hard to say about the box in my hands. It seemed bottomless. A black, abrasive something enveloped the inside of the box. I directed my incomprehensible gaze at Sean. He only swallowed his salvia and headed toward the front door. Sean, what is it? Hello? Puzzled, I followed him, but Sean flew out the door, slamming it behind him. I glanced at the box and then sat back down on the couch. Dipping my hand into it didn't seem like the best idea. However, the lack of a visible bottom kept me awake. I took a pencil from the nightstand and slowly dropped it inside. It immediately disappeared without a trace, sinking into the depths of the strange box. Rachel came up to me in surprise. She was startled by her boss's gift. After thinking for a while, she grabbed the phone in her hands and started dialing Sean, who had run out of our house a few minutes earlier. And the sound of elongated beeps, I heard the clatter of a pencil that ended up at my feet. It flew out of the box as if someone had thrown it away. What the hell? That's impossible, isn't it? I thought. Squatting down to pick up the pencil from the floor, I turned my head toward the box. In an instant, panic gripped me and my heart began to pound as if trying to break free. A man's head was peering out of the box. His bulging eyes stared at me. I jumped sharply to my feet, finding myself next to Rachel. She hung up the phone and turned toward me, letting out a thin cry at the sink of the man. "Hey, who are you?" I muttered in an attempt to speak to the man. But the man was silent, only glancing at me with his piercing eyes. "Can you hear me?" I tried again and said. In confusion, Rachel and I looked at each other, but when we turned our attention back to the box, the man was already clutching it with his fingers. It was like a stranger hanging over a precipice, trying to climb toward us. "What do you want from us?" I shouted, but got no answer. The man was silent, and his bulging eyes stabbed me from the inside. I ordered Rachel to not take her eyes off him while I ran into the kitchen to find a knife. The uncertainty of what was happening was weighing on my psyche. I decided to cut the box into small pieces before the stranger got out of it completely. Suddenly, there was no light in the house. I reached for a light switch and found it savagely ripped from the wall. "Rachel, are you okay?" I yelled, but all I got was silence. There was no one in the hallway. The box had mysteriously disappeared from the table. My wife wasn't in the room either. Where is she? And where had the demon box gone? Suddenly, a muffled knock sounded from the door leading to the cellar. I instantly grabbed the flashlight from the nightstand and shined it toward the door. Slowly I approached it, grabbed the handle, and with a slight twist opened it. The basement lamp was working. I managed to turn it on by pulling the wall switch. However, the light was not enough to illuminate the entire staircase that led to the basement room. "Rachel, are you in there?" There were two muffled knocks again that called me into the depth of the basement room. It sounded like someone was dragging furniture downstairs. Step by step, I began to descend into the basement, shining the flashlight my way. At the stairwell, the door to the basement room appeared in front of me. It was slightly ajar, and out of the gap stood the same man who had been in the box earlier. I was frightened with surprise and dropped my flashlight, which rolled treacherously down the stairs toward the stranger. He was silent, still staring at me with his creepy bulging eyes. It was as if he had been waiting for me to come. "Who are you, and what have you done with my wife? Shut up, you bitch." My nerves were on a thin thread. I yelled at him, not holding back my emotions. However, my legs didn't dare take the next step toward the basement room. Suddenly, a quiet "I'm sorry" sounded at the top of the stairs. I turned my head toward the sound. There were silhouettes of people at the top of the stairs. I couldn't see their faces in the darkness. Who were they? And what were they doing here? Did they get out of the bottomless box too? What if they had stolen my wife and now they were after me? Terrified, I pressed myself against the wall and turned my head toward the man again. The door to the basement room was completely open, allowing me to get a good look at the man. He was completely naked. His arms, legs, and stomach were covered with a husk that forms as a result of psoriasis. His body stood in the center of the basement room. He stared at me silently with his bulging eyes, which for a moment seemed about to fall out of his eye sockets. When I heard the creaking of the steps, I turned my head again toward the silhouettes of the man. They were a few steps closer to me now. I was at a dead end. On one side was the man in the box, and on the other a company of people whose faces I couldn't make out. Each time I turned away from one side, the other approached me. A little more, and I would be swallowed up by the unknown people in my house. In this pitch black darkness, I turned my head toward the man. He was still standing in the center of the basement room. This time, however, with his sweaty armpits exposed and his hand up. He was reaching for the string of light switches that hung from the ceiling. I realized that if he turned off the light, the darkness would become my dreaded home forever. And I felt a complete depersonalization in my body. The creaks of the stairs grew closer and closer to me. The crowd of unknown people on the other side was getting closer. I turned my head in their direction and darkness reigned around me. A man pulled the switch I'd seen on the ceiling, causing the light in the basement to turn off. I don't know how much time passed. Surprisingly, I didn't feel any pain or any other foreign touch. I just found myself in darkness, the blackness that had become my shelter. I can't see anything, but I can walk straight ahead, backwards. The stairs are gone. It's gone. There's just a straight road. A road to nowhere. I can sit down, lie down. But everything I do happens in the dark. It's unbearably not in here. So hot, in fact, that I decided to take my clothes off. But even so, drops of sweat still run down my body. I think I'm in a box. The same bottomless box that Sean once brought me. Perhaps this box soon to be given to someone else. And then I might be able to get out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to be the first to receive notifications of new scary stories.